Hey guys, happy Wednesday. Welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Shaina. I am a master life coach, and today I want to talk about marriage, kids, and settling down in the 21st century. There's a lot of layers to this topic, so I'm just going to do my best to tackle it from different angles. But first, if anybody is curious as to where I currently stand in this pool, I am 35 years old. I am not married. I do not have kids. I am in a committed 5-year relationship. We will be engaged in the very near future, and the conversation about having children and when or not having children is open and happening between the two of us. I don't have a lot of mind drama in this arena, and I think through this video, you'll kind of come to understand why I don't. But I know that generally speaking, there can be a lot of personal conflict happening around this topic. Pressures and timetables and unfulfilled desires and confusion and all the things. So let's talk about it all. The conversation and ultimately decision making around marriage and kids is much different now than it was in previous generations for our parents and our grandparents. For example, my mom was 18 when she got married, had my sister, I arrived a year later, and then my brother came along. Now, that may be an extreme on the comparison scale, but it's just wild to think that at my age right now, my mom had a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 9-year-old. That's wild for me to think about. Today, we are witnessing a vastly different timetable. We're getting married later in life. Women in their early 30s are giving birth at higher rates than women in their 20s and their teens. And more people than ever are just opting out altogether. And so the first question I want to answer is why? Why are we taking longer to settle down or not settling down at all? I will share what I know based on my own studies of the quarter-life crisis epidemic. I'm sure there are lots of studies and information out there, but this is just what I know as to why millennials in particular have moved at a slower pace. We've, and I say we because I'm a millennial, attempted to make the same choices that earlier generations made because that's what we were taught. Right? So our parents handed out the same brochures that they were given. So for a lot of us, it was you go to college, graduate, find a well-paying job within the walls of a quote unquote stable, larger organization so that we can settle down. But then what's happening is so many of us are doing just that. We're following this outdated rule book laid out for us, and we're coming out the other side into early adulthood like, something isn't right. Something's off. Something doesn't feel right. It's that moment that we know deep down we're not on the right path in our careers or just like in our general trajectory. And so then we spend the next decade or a good portion of it trying to unlearn and undo everything that we were taught was quote unquote right according to society. We're then faced with the challenge of figuring it out for ourselves without a map. We're like, WTF? How do I now all of a sudden make these decisions on my own? And so we're like running around like a chicken with its head cut off. And not to mention, most of us have student loan debt, and some of us are living in these expensive cities, especially if that's where we went to college. So there's a lot of uncertainty in our 20s. And when we are in that state of mind, our actions reflect that. Like a chicken with its head cut off is not in one place hammering away at a foundation to settle down on. No, it's off trying to find its head, never mind adding more responsibility. It's trying to figure his or herself out, how to think for itself, how to make its own decisions. Something that we weren't ever taught. And so in that headspace, or lack thereof, if we're staying true to our chicken analogy here, it's taking us longer to grow up and to evolve into who we're becoming, which of course affects seeking a partner. We also don't feel financially ready. We feel too young, and we become career focused, actively trying to discover and pursue a path we actually enjoy. And that takes time, especially if you have debt. Like our 20s are supposed to be the time when we're taking entrepreneurial risks and travel and let life for the first time be our teacher. not the classroom. But a lot of us are so weighed down by student loan debt that even those things, trying new things, traveling, starting businesses, taking risks, etc., are happening later in life, which pushes that timetable back. So needless to say, our 20-something experience is much different today than previous generations, which P.S. I love when parents are like, why aren't you settled down by now? When I was your age, oh, I'm sorry. Maybe it's because we have to unlearn everything you taught us. Anywho, I do believe that the timetable will shift again in the future. I don't think that our generation is going to pass on the same rigid rules onto future generations because we pay the consequence of that. So if we can change the ideology in schools and encourage our kids at home to think for themselves and explore their own definition of success, they won't have to spend their post-grad years unlearning and undoing what we had to. In other words, the sooner that kids are allowed to explore their own curiosities and what they really want and learn the tools to build belief in themselves, the sooner they can pursue it. And then, of course, the sooner they can settle down if that is something that's in alignment for them. Make sense? Okay, so not only are men and women settling down later in life because of these outdated brochures, but more and more people are even opting out of marriage and or starting a family altogether. Now, part of this is a byproduct of what we just talked about, with so much unlearning and relearning being done in our 20s and that timetable being pushed back. A lot of us are like, damn, I spent my 20s figuring it out. I finally got it at 30, but I still want to travel and do this and this and this and do all the things that I couldn't do then. And so the idea of settling down is in question. And then there's the judgment of all of that. If you don't know, I live in Los Angeles, which is, of course, a very big city. We have friends here all over the spectrum. We know couples that are committed but do not want marriage or kids. We know couples that want marriage but no kids. We know married couples wanting kids or who have kids. And then, of course, we have single friends. It's a mishmash. I think living in a bigger city, you are surrounded by such diversity in ways of living and thinking and doing that acceptance of all the ways is easier and more natural, whereas smaller towns, generally speaking, ooze more conformity and rigid rules. It's the reason why here, like literally nobody gives a shit how Nathan and I are living our life. But as soon as I go back home, it's like, when are you getting married? When are you having kids? It's just the lay of the land. But regardless, city dwellers or small town goers, I think the older generation as a whole, for sure, the same ones still handing out those outdated brochures, have the hardest time understanding unconventional ways of living in the 21st century. We, and when I say we, I mean people like myself who are not married yet or don't have kids, can very quickly be labeled selfish and or irresponsible, which I think is so lame. I'm not offended by it. I don't get offended easily. It's just kind of funny to me. And here's why. One, I cannot, you guys, for the life of me, understand why people care so much about how other people live their lives. Like, I do not ever sit back and assume to know or judge or even legit give one shit why people choose not to get married and have kids. It's none of my business. It's not affecting me and my quality of life whatsoever. And if my choices are affecting you, that's your issue, not mine, right? Now, I say that like, oh my God, I cannot understand it. I understand it professionally. We as humans all have a deep-seated fear of not being liked. And so to avoid this, by default, we try to conform to be like everybody else. So if the narrative of what's acceptable and normal is to get married and to have kids, by this age, if that's the thing to be like everyone else and someone isn't following it, our brains feel threatened. So like even if I'm totally cool with my choices and going against the grain, it may threaten somebody else who hasn't broken that mold. It makes them uncomfortable. So then they project outward onto you like, what are you doing? Why aren't you being normal, right? Like, why aren't you being like everybody else? And guys, it's really important to know that other people's judgments, opinions, ideas of what you should do at what time is their own limitations, not yours. The second reason that I think labeling people selfish or irresponsible is so lame, because people get married and have children every single day, you guys, for selfish and irresponsible reasons. In fact, I'm still waiting to hear one selfless reason to have a child of your own. Adoption, I get. But it's not like my unfertilized eggs and unborn children are suffering in some horrible way and they're like waiting for me to save them. No, they don't exist, right? People have kids every day for selfish reasons. I don't want to be lonely. I want a baby so I can feel fulfilled. I want a baby to save this marriage. We were watching 90 Day Fiancé the other night, which is a ridiculous but highly addicting show if you don't watch it. And one of the moms on there was boldly stating her case, saying, I am selfless. I am selfless. I have 9 kids. And I'm not kidding you. A minute later, she was like, I'm old. You're supposed to take care of me. Children are supposed to take care of their mother. That's not selfless. The argument of that's selfish, you need to grow up and this and that is just like, I don't know, tired and old in my opinion. We can very easily point fingers at people who've chosen the marriage and baby route, or sometimes just the baby route, and call them selfish and irresponsible. P.S. This is not me throwing shade at anyone for settling down and having babies and getting married. Of course not. Like, we might have kids for the same selfish reasons, you guys, but rather to shine a light on the irony of these labels so that we can stop judging other people and their choices. Let people be on their own journey, even if it looks different than yours. It's okay, I promise. And side note, yeah, I'm still on this, isn't having a child for the sole reason of not being selfish in itself? Think about it. Or someone could argue that not having children is actually the selfless thing to do in this crazy world that we live in today. I mean, guys, these are just arguments, they're beliefs, they're ideas. None of it is factual. Getting married is not right or wrong. Having kids is not right or wrong. There are people unhappily married. There are people happily married. People unhappily single. People happily single. There are people who are selfish and irresponsible who don't have kids, 100%. There are people who are selfish and irresponsible who have kids. Marriage and kids are neutral circumstances. They do not make us feel anything. It's our own thoughts about marriage and kids that matter. It's the reasoning behind the choice of marriage and having kids or not that matters. Liking our own reason and feeling good about it is what matters. I can be equally as happy starting a family as I can be traveling the world. The starting a family or the traveling doesn't determine how happy I get to be. It's about liking my own reason either way and then having my own back in that decision. It's about making inspired decisions with intention. It's about us deciding on purpose what is best for you or within your relationship and then honoring that path. And people are missing that piece of it. We should not be going around leading with the questions, are you married? Do you have kids? Like they're to-dos on a to-do list. We should be leading with the question, are you happy? That is all that matters. When my mom called a few months ago, I was like, what's going on? And she's like, oh, just went out with your aunt and we were talking about you. And I was like, oh, about what? And she's like, I don't know, just kind of worried about you. And I'm like, worried about me? And she's like, well, not worried about you, but And I'm like, no, I don't know. And she's like, well, you're living all the way out there. And, you and Nathan have been together for a while. And I'm like, okay, I know where this is going, right? But I sat with it afterward and the worry, or better yet, their worry. And I'm just like, worried about what? worried about me having my own business that I absolutely love and making my own money and having so much freedom and now being able to travel and being in a loving, healthy relationship, even though we're not married, that's worrisome, right? Like, is somebody else better off because they're married and unhappy just because they're married? You know what I mean? Now, I will say that a lot of the time, outside opinion is well-intentioned. I think a lot of people genuinely are like, oh, but this way of life is so amazing and great, and you're missing out. And they really believe that to be true because it's been their experience, which is so amazing, right? But I think that our own limitations of how things should be block us off from seeing and experiencing in the eyes of others alternate possibilities and joys. The truth is, you guys, our paths are wildly unique. Our innate desires and preferences are not one and the same. The lessons that we are here to learn are different from the next person. The experiences we're meant to have are different from our neighbor. And so the more we feed into the fear of how things should be and when, the more we resist our own timeline and everything that has been perfectly placed for us. Like I said, we're having conversations about what's next for us. You know, where do we want to live? Do we want to have kids? And when? Do we want to travel, etc.? If I think I have to be married by this age and do this and that at this time, that strict agenda closes me off to other possibilities that the universe might have in store for me. We must be willing to be open and receptive to it all. We must drop the fear from the equation so that we can, one, drop the judgment, both externally and internally, and two, lean into our own unique timeline and therefore make clean decisions for ourselves. Now, fear shows up on both sides of the coin: to do or not to do, to have or not to have. For example, I'm getting older. I should settle down. I'm scared to get married. It ruins everything. People think I'm selfish. Let's have a baby. I'm scared to have children. What if it changes everything for the worse? Regardless of what side of the coin fear is showing up, it's important to clean it up so that you can own and be proud of whatever decisions you end up making. I know some of you are thinking, well, what about the biological clock? That's a real thing. Listen, I get it. I am 35 years old. I hear you. But again, I don't have a lot of mind drama about it, not because I'm uneducated about the risks associated with age and pregnancy. Please do not post articles. I'm well aware. I think for me, at least, what helps is one, massive acceptance and surrender of where I'm at. That's number one. I don't obsess about what I don't have because there's no power there for me. Two, I fully own the choices that I've made up until this point. And then three, I trust in my own decision-making in the present. And I really trust my power in the present moment to handle anything. In other words, if we choose to have kids and that's in alignment for us, but physiologically I can't, I will figure it out. Because I truly believe when there's a will, there's a way. God doesn't place things in our heart and our souls if they're not possible. That's the bottom line. So if you're watching this and you do desire being married and or having kids, but you haven't found that person yet, or maybe you're struggling to have kids, whatever the circumstances are, here's what I want to offer you. I know the age-old advice of you meet your person when you least expect it, or you get pregnant when you stop trying. I know that feedback can be so annoying, but it's also very true. The more we focus on the fear of what we should have but don't, the more of the same we create. For example, if I'm out dating and I'm leading with, I need somebody, I need to get married, I have to be married in 2 years, you are repelling the exact thing you want or attracting something you don't. Nobody's turned on by that, right? So if you're listening right now and you want marriage and you want a family, celebrate that desire and you knowing what you want. 100% celebrate that clarity. But if the pieces of that desire haven't fully formed, one, trust in your deep desire, trust in that feeling. Again, God doesn't place things in our heart and our souls if they're not possible. Two, get wildly happy without the outcome. When you can get to a place of, I don't need this thing to feel fulfilled, that's when miracles happen, you guys. When you can drop your own agenda of how, what, when, and where it will happen, that's when miracles happen. Again, I am so sorry if that is an annoying answer, but it's the law of the universe. I did not create it. Please don't kill the messenger. This is a very lengthy video. I feel like we should have had an intermission or something. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, and feel free to continue the conversation in the comment section below. But to sum up, there are no rules, okay? Only the limitations we've placed on ourselves, adopted from outside influences. To uncover your true self's deepest desires, you must shed the fear from the equation. Commit to making inspired, intentional decisions that you like and have your own back on. Embrace your unique timeline and practice celebrating your own journey and others. Be willing to drop your strict agenda of things working out exactly as you had planned and instead trust that the universe has your back. This or something better. All right, my friends, that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you next week.